Discovery and Awakening. The ice cracked beneath Dr. Maya Reeves' drill, revealing a darkness that shouldn't exist. Europa's subsurface ocean had yielded many surprises during the 5 years since humanity established the research outpost. But this was different. The beam from her headlamp didn't penetrate the void. It bent, twisted, and seemed to fold back on itself. "Control, I'm getting some very unusual readings here," she said, her breath fogging inside her helmet. "The spectrometer is going haywire. Whatever this is, it's not ice or any mineral we've cataloged." "Copy that, Dr. Reeves," came the voice of Control. "Your vitals are normal, but your suit's radiation counter is showing fluctuations. Recommend immediate sample collection and retreat." Maya hesitated, her scientific curiosity warring with training. "I'm detecting a regular pattern in the material. This isn't natural formation." She carefully extracted a core sample, watching as the strange material seemed to shimmer between states, sometimes appearing solid, sometimes like a liquid suspended in time. As the sample entered the containment unit, her instruments briefly went dead before rebooting. 3 days later, the object sat in Europa Station's highest security lab, surrounded by every scanning device available to humanity. Maya hadn't slept, her dark eyes fixed on the readings that defied explanation. "It's some kind of data storage," she explained to Commander Jackson Chen, the military liaison to the research station. "But the information isn't stored chemically or digitally as we understand it. It seems to exist in a quantum state, simultaneously expressing multiple information states." Chen, a compact man with precise movements and calculating eyes, studied the holographic display. "And you're certain it's artificial?" "Without question," Maya said, pushing back a strand of hair that had escaped her ponytail. "The patterns are too regular, too complex. This was made by intelligent hands, just not human ones." The breakthrough came when they stopped trying to analyze the object with conventional methods. Dr. Vikram Singh, the quantum computing specialist, suggested an approach that seemed almost mystical rather than scientific. They would converse with the object, using quantum fluctuations as a language. When the first images emerged on the display, the room fell silent. The recording showed beings that resembled towering insectoids, their compound eyes gleaming with an intelligence that transcended species. Behind them loomed massive structures that seemed to defy physics, as if reality itself had been convinced to bend into new shapes. "My God," whispered Chen. "They're speaking." The translation matrix struggled, presenting fragments of meaning rather than coherent speech. "Wo arning, harvesters. Observive then, eat la emma and 8. Patioran repats." As days passed, more of the message became clear. The artifact was a warning beacon, left by a species that called themselves the Lumina. They had been a Type Io civilization, capable of harnessing the energy of their entire star. They had spread across 12 star systems before encountering the harvesters. "They aren't conquerors in the conventional sense," Maya explained to the emergency United Nations Security Council meeting, addressing dozens of grim faces on the holographic display. The Lumina described them as galactic gardeners, entities that systematically eliminate civilizations that reach certain technological thresholds. "Why?" demanded the Russian representative. "Resources. Territory." The Lumina weren't sure, Maya replied. They theorized that the harvesters serve some ancient function, perhaps preventing the rise of civilizations that might threaten galactic stability. What we do know is their pattern. They observe, they evaluate, and then they eliminate, with absolute efficiency. The Chinese delegate leaned forward. "How many civilizations have they harvested?" Maya swallowed hard. "Based on the records contained in the artifact, at least 37 advanced species across our galactic neighborhood." The Lumina were among the last. The room erupted into multilingual chaos. It took 3 minutes for order to be restored. The Lumina knew they were marked for elimination. Maya continued. They placed warning beacons throughout the galaxy, hoping some species might learn from their destruction. "This is the first one we found." "And why?" asked the American president, her voice cutting through the tension. "Are you telling us this now, Dr. Reeves?" Maya nodded to Commander Chen, who activated a new holographic display. "3 days ago," he said, "deep space monitoring stations detected an anomalous signal approaching our solar system. It doesn't match any known natural phenomenon. Its trajectory suggests deliberate movement, and its velocity indicates technology far beyond our capabilities." The display showed a cluster of objects moving through the void, their formation too perfect to be natural. Based on the patterns described in the artifact, Maya added, "We believe these may be Harvester scout ships. If the pattern holds true, they're coming to observe us." The silence that followed was broken by the UK Prime Minister. "How long do we have?" "At current velocity, approximately 11 months before they reach our system," Chen replied. "Then we have 11 months to prepare," the American president said, her voice steady despite the implications. "Dr. Reeves, Commander Chen, you've studied this artifact. What do you recommend?" Maya exchanged a glance with Chen before answering. The Lumina attempted conventional defense, massive weapons platforms, planetary shields. Nothing worked. The Harvesters simply adapted and overwhelmed them. "The artifact suggests," Chen added, "that the Harvesters operate on patterns, predictions. They'd eliminated so many civilizations that they've developed a template for it. They expect certain responses, certain technologies. So we give them something unexpected," the Russian representative suggested. "Exactly," Maya nodded. The Lumina's final recording suggested that unpredictability might be our only advantage. Humanity needs to become the most unpredictable species in galactic history. The next 8 months transformed Earth in ways no one could have predicted. Ancient rivalries were set aside as humanity united against an existential threat. The Global Defense Initiative was formed, combining military forces, scientific knowledge, and cultural wisdom from every nation. Maya and Chen became the unlikely leaders of Project Prometheus, humanity's comprehensive preparation program. They worked from a secured facility beneath the Himalayan mountains, coordinating global efforts while continuing to extract information from the artifact. "The more we decode," Maya told Chen one night as they reviewed the latest simulations, "the more I'm convinced the Lumina were telling us something specific. Look at this sequence." The display showed what appeared to be a tactical simulation. Lumina defense forces arrayed in logical, optimal defensive positions. The simulation then showed the Harvesters systematically dismantling these defenses, as if they'd anticipated every move. "They're predictive," Chen muttered. "Almost preemptive." "But there's more," Maya said, advancing the simulation. In the final days, a small Lumina colony on their system's outer planet tried something desperate, completely random, chaotic defensive patterns. No strategic logic at all. The simulation showed the colony lasting significantly longer against the attack. "The Harvesters still won," Chen observed. "Yes, but they had to work for it. Their efficiency dropped by 68% against targets that behaved chaotically." Chen's eyes lit with understanding. They can't predict the unpredictable. As the months passed, humanity prepared in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. Instead of building bigger weapons, they created systems that reconfigured themselves randomly. Instead of training soldiers to follow strict protocols, they encouraged creative improvisation. The artifact continued yielding information, each new revelation more troubling than the last. The Harvesters weren't simply eliminating civilizations. They were harvesting knowledge, technology, and cultural information before eradication. They were collectors as much as destroyers. 10 months after the discovery, Earth's long-range sensors detected the Harvester scout ships entering the outer solar system. They moved with precision, establishing observation positions around Pluto's orbit. "They're watching us," Maya said, studying the real-time feed in the command center. "Just like the artifact said they would." "How long until they move closer?" asked General Yamato, the Japanese commander who headed the global defense forces. "If they follow the pattern," Chen replied. They'll observe for approximately 3 months before beginning their approach. That gives us time for final preparations. Maya stared at the distant objects on the display, knowing that humanity's survival now depended on their ability to confound an enemy that had never failed to eliminate its targets. We need to be ready, she said quietly, because after observation comes evaluation. And after evaluation comes harvest. Chen finished, his jaw set with determination. But not this time. This time, they're dealing with humans. As the harvester ships maintained their distant vigil, humanity prepared for the greatest challenge in its existence, becoming the first species to survive the harvester's ancient pattern of destruction. Humanity's last stand. The harvester ships entered the inner solar system with geometric precision, their massive forms eclipsing the stars behind them. Earth's monitoring systems tracked 7 primary vessels, each larger than anything humanity had ever constructed, accompanied by hundreds of smaller craft arranged in perfect formation. In the underground command center, Maya watched their approach with a mixture of dread and scientific fascination. They're not hiding. They want us to see them coming. Psychological warfare, Commander Chen noted. Breaking the defender's will before the battle begins. General Yamato nodded grimly. A tactic as old as war itself. But we've prepared for this. The preparations had been unlike anything in human history. Conventional military forces have been largely sidelined in favor of what became known as chaos protocols. Defense systems designed to behave in ways that defied logical prediction. Quantum randomizers had been integrated into every weapon system, every communication network, every strategic decision matrix. Mars Defense Station reports they're being scanned, announced Lieutenant Santos, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The energy signatures match what the Lumina artifact described. They're creating a complete model of our capabilities. Maya exchanged a significant look with Chen. This, too, matched the pattern. The harvesters were methodical. They would build a complete understanding of human technology, culture, and defensive capabilities before launching their attack. Activate Delta Protocol, ordered General Yamato. Throughout the solar system, human outposts and defense platforms began executing seemingly random maneuvers, shutting down systems only to restart them with different configurations, moving defensive assets in patterns that appeared strategically nonsensical, broadcasting communications that contained deliberate contradictions and false information. They're going to think we're insane, Chen remarked with a tight smile. That's the idea, Maya replied. The Lumina were logical to the end. Every defense, every counterattack followed optimal strategic patterns. The harvesters predicted and countered each move. For 3 weeks, the harvester fleet maintained its position near Mars, observing Earth's erratic defensive preparations without response. Then, without warning, a smaller vessel detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward Earth. Incoming transmission, announced Lieutenant Santos. It's unlike anything we've seen. The screens in the command center filled with symbols that shifted and transformed, sometimes geometric, sometimes organic, defying human visual processing. They're communicating, Maya whispered, recognizing patterns similar to those in the Lumina artifact, but not with language as we understand it. The team's xenolinguists and AI systems worked frantically to decode the message. When they finally succeeded, the translation was both simple and chilling. Assessment complete. Harvest Ainaitai. The attack began with surgical precision. The harvesters targeted Earth's largest power distribution nodes, defense installations, and communication hubs simultaneously. But instead of finding vulnerable, static targets, they encountered systems that reconfigured themselves in real time, following no discernible pattern. New York power grid is regenerating using the quantum lattice protocols, reported Santos. Tokyo defense systems shifting to configuration gamma random. On screens throughout the command center, the battle unfolded across Earth and throughout the solar system. Humanity's forces weren't winning. They were vastly outmatched in technology and firepower. but they weren't being systematically eliminated as the Lumina had been. They're adapting, Chen noted, watching as harvester attacks became more varied, less predictable themselves. Learning from our chaos. As expected, Maya said, her eyes not leaving the quantum computation running on her personal terminal. But adaptation requires processing time. We're forcing them to think rather than simply execute. The battle raged for days, with no clear pattern of victory or defeat. The harvesters would gain an advantage, only to find their targets transformed or relocated. Human counterattacks would fail against superior technology, but would provide data for rapidly evolving defensive protocols. On the seventh day, Maya called Chen and General Yamato to her private lab, her face showing both exhaustion and excitement. "I've completed my analysis of their attack patterns," she explained, displaying a complex three-dimensional model. The harvesters aren't a single consciousness. They're a collective of specialized systems. Each has primary responsibility for countering specific threats. Like specialized cells in an immune system, Chen said, understanding immediately. Exactly. And like an immune system, they have a central coordination mechanism. Here, she pointed to a pulsing node in the model. This signal pattern appears when they need to reconfigure their overall strategy. General Yamato leaned forward. A command chip, more like a timing signal, a metronome that keeps them synchronized. If we could disrupt it, then each specialized system would continue functioning. Chen continued, but without coordination. "It's our best chance," Maya said, "but we'll only get one opportunity. They'll adapt to whatever method we use immediately." The plan that emerged was aptly named Operation Wildcard, a desperate gambit that relied on humanity's unique capacity for creative chaos. 3 stealth vessels, each carrying experimental quantum disruption devices, would approach the harvester fleet from different vectors, their courses determined by true random number generators based on atmospheric noise. This goes against every principle of military strategy, General Yamato noted as they reviewed the final plan. No backup, no coordination between teams, each vessel operating on completely independent parameters. "That's why it might work," Chen replied. "The harvesters expect logical progression. Even in our chaos, they'd been identifying patterns. This removes pattern entirely." As the mission launched, the command center fell into tense silence. The 3 ships, Wildcard Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, disappeared from conventional tracking as they activated their stealth systems. Hours passed with no communication. The main harvester attack continued, gradually gaining ground against Earth's defenses despite their chaotic reconfiguration. Casualties mounted as cities across the planet faced precision strikes that overwhelmed even the most advanced protective measures. "We're running out of time," General Yamato said quietly. At that moment, Lieutenant Santos straightened in her chair. "Signal from Wildcard Beta." They're sending an old-fashioned Morse code transmission through quantum fluctuations in background radiation. The message was simple. "In Poazetoyan." Commencing. Minutes later, the harvester attack faltered. Their perfect formations began to drift, their coordinated strikes becoming disjointed and ineffective. Some vessels ceased movement entirely, while others began executing maneuvers that served no apparent purpose. "It's working," Chen breathed, watching the tactical display. "They're losing coordination." Maya studied the incoming data with intense focus. "The disruption is temporary. Their systems are already trying to establish a new synchronization protocol." But the window of opportunity was enough. Earth's defense forces launched a counterattack using weapons platforms that had remained hidden throughout the solar system. Platforms whose existence had been deliberately concealed even within Earth's own strategic databases. The command center erupted in cheers as harvester vessels began to withdraw, their once perfect formation now a scattered retreat. "They're leaving," General Yamato announced, disbelief evident in his voice. "We actually drove them back." Maya shook her head, still studying the data streams. "Not retreating. Regrouping. They'll be back with a new approach." But we've proven something crucial, Chen said. The pattern can be broken. The harvesters can be confounded. For the first time in their existence, they've met a species they couldn't simply eliminate according to their standard protocol. In the days that followed, humanity prepared for the harvesters' return, developing new chaos protocols, new unpredictable defense systems. But the expected second wave never came. Instead, long-range sensors detected the harvester fleet departing the solar system, moving faster than their arrival. 6 months later, Maya stood before the United Nations, presenting her analysis of humanity's encounter with the harvesters. We weren't stronger, she concluded. We weren't more technologically advanced. By every conventional measure, we should have been harvested like all the others before us. What saved us was uniquely human, our capacity for illogical action, for creative chaos, for decisions that defy optimal strategy in favor of unpredictable innovation. She displayed the final image recovered from the Lumina artifact, a mathematical prediction showing the inevitable extinction of intelligent species throughout the galaxy. The Lumina believed this was the unalterable fate of all advanced civilizations, but they were wrong. Humanity has rewritten the equation. We've proven that intelligence coupled with unpredictability can survive even the most efficient harvesters. Commander Chen, now Admiral Chen of Earth's Unified Defense Force, stood as Maya concluded her presentation. We weren't the first to reach the stars, he said. But if we maintain what makes us human, our creativity, our unpredictability, our sometimes irrational courage, we may be the last ones standing. As Maya looked out over the assembly of world leaders, she knew that humanity's greatest test had also been its greatest revelation. In a universe of patterns and predictability, the chaotic human mind had proven to be the most powerful adaptation of all. Somewhere in the vastness of space, the harvesters continued their ancient mission. But for the first time in their existence, they carried with them the knowledge of a harvest that failed, and the recognition of a species unlike any they had encountered before. Humanity had arrived late to the stars, but they would endure long after others had fallen.